My daughter's new boyfriend looked familiar until I saw his tattoo. I was reaching across the table to shake his hand when I saw it. A small tattoo on the inside of his left wrist, partially covered by his watch band. 3 interlocked triangles in faded black ink. My fingers went cold mid-grip. The young man smiled and squeezed harder, mistaking my hesitation for something else. My daughter Emma watched us both with that careful hope children carry when introducing someone important. I finished the handshake and sat back down, picking up my water glass to give my hands something to do. Only 5 men in the world had that mark. We had gotten them together in a bar outside Kandahar 23 years ago, drunk on cheap whiskey and the certainty that we were invincible. 5 operators from a unit that officially did not exist. We had promised never to speak of the work or each other after we rotated home. I had kept that promise. 4 of us made it back alive. The 5th, Marcus Webb, had been declared killed in action when an explosion tore through a safe house in Helmand Province. I'd been there. I'd seen the building collapse. I'd helped search the rubble until the brass pulled us out. The man sitting across from me, holding my daughter's hand, had introduced himself as Derek Lane. Emma was talking, her voice bright with the nervousness of wanting everything to go well. She worked in marketing for a tech firm downtown. He worked in consulting, she said. They had met at a conference 6 months ago. He was originally from Oregon, she said. Portland, he added, meeting my eyes. His voice was calm and unremarkable. I nodded and asked careful questions about his work, about where he lived now, about how he liked the city. The answers were smooth and forgettable. My wife Linda asked about his family. He mentioned a mother in assisted living, no siblings, a father who had passed when he was young. The details arrived polished and complete, the way prepared stories do. I excused myself to the kitchen to check on the roast. My hands were steady when I opened the oven, but my breathing was not. I stood there in the heat, replaying the handshake, the tattoo, the angles of his face. 23 years changes a man. Marcus had been 26 then, lean and quick, with a scar through his left eyebrow from a training accident. This man was older, heavier in the shoulders, no visible scar, but the spacing of his eyes was the same. The shape of his mouth when he smiled was the same, and the tattoo was exact. When I returned to the table, Linda was laughing at something he had said. Emma was leaning into him, relaxed in a way I had not seen her in years. I set the roast down and began carving. The knife moved through the meat with familiar precision. I asked him where he had gone to college. He said he had done 2 years of community college but never finished. He had traveled instead, worked odd jobs, found his footing late. His eyes never left mine. When he answered, there was no recognition there, no acknowledgement, just the pleasant blankness of a stranger meeting his girlfriend's father for the first time. After dinner, Emma and Derek left together. I stood at the window and watched them walk to his car. He opened her door first, the gesture easy and automatic. I memorized the license plate. When their taillights disappeared around the corner, I went to my office and closed the door. The file cabinet in the corner had not been opened in a decade. The folders inside were plain and labeled with years, not names. I pulled the one marked 22 years prior and opened it on my desk. There were no official documents inside. Those had been shredded or sealed in places I could not access. What I had kept were personal things. A photograph of the 5 of us in desert fatigues, no names, no unit insignia, taken by a nurse who did not ask questions. A list of contact information for the other 3 survivors, written in my own hand on a scrap of paper. A condolence letter from Marcus Webb's mother, forwarded to me through a back channel, asking if I knew what had really happened to her son. I had never answered her. I had been instructed not to. I looked at Marcus in the photograph, young and grinning, and I looked at the image of Derek Lane that I held in my memory, older and careful. The structure of the skull was the same. I called the first number on the list. It rang 4 times before a machine picked up. The outgoing message was automated, no voice. I left no message. The second number had been disconnected. The third number rang twice, and a man answered. I recognized the voice immediately. Tom Reese, the medic from our unit, now a paramedic in Ohio. "It's Jack," I said. There was a long silence. Then quietly, "We don't do this." I know, something came up. Another pause. Talk. I told him about the tattoo. I didn't mention my daughter yet. Tom listened without interrupting. When I finished, he exhaled slowly. You sure about the ink? Certain. Webb is dead. You were there. I know what I saw tonight. Tom was quiet again, thinking. People fake tattoos, copycats, stolen valor types. This was exact. Placement, size, all of it. Then he saw one of ours and copied it. Could be he knows someone who knew us. Could be coincidence. He is dating my daughter. The silence that followed was different. Tom understood what that meant. Random chance ended when family became involved. Send me a picture if you can, he said. I will look into it. I will try. Jack, if this is what you think it is, you need to be smart. No confrontations, no noise. Understand? I understand. Good. I will call you back. The line went dead. I sat at my desk and stared at the photograph of the five of us. Marcus Webb had been declared killed in action. I had filed the report myself. I had signed documents confirming that his remains could not be recovered from the collapsed structure. Those documents had been classified and buried. If Marcus was alive, then the explosion had been something else. A cover, a disappearance. And if he was using a new name and had found his way to my daughter, then the approach was not accidental. The next morning, I drove to the library and used a public computer to search for Derek Lane. The name appeared in dozens of professional profiles and social media accounts. I found the one that matched the age and city Emma had mentioned. The photograph was recent. The face was his. The employment history listed a consulting firm that had been registered only 4 years ago. The company website was clean and professional, listing services in risk assessment and corporate security. There were no client testimonials, no case studies, nothing that proved the firm actually did work. I called the number listed on the site. A woman answered and took my information, promising that someone would return my call. No one did. I visited the address listed for the firm. It was a shared office building downtown, the kind with temporary desks and month-to-month leases. The receptionist at the front desk said that Derek Lane was not in and did not keep regular hours. I left no message. On the way out, I photographed the building directory. The consulting firm was listed, but the suite number was unoccupied when I walked past it on the second floor. That evening, Emma called to thank me for dinner. Her voice was light. She said that Derek had enjoyed meeting us and that she appreciated how welcoming we had been. I told her I was glad, that he seemed like a good man, and that I looked forward to seeing them again soon. After we hung up, I poured a drink and sat in the dim living room, listening to the house settle. Linda asked if everything was all right. I told her I was tired. She kissed my forehead and went upstairs. Tom called 2 days later. I found the fourth man, he said. Carter. He is running a gun shop in Wyoming. I told him what you told me. He says it is impossible. What else did he say? That Webb is dead and we need to let it stay that way. He was not happy I called. Did you send him the description? I did. He said he does not want to know. Jack, maybe he's right. Maybe this is something we should not dig into. He is with my daughter. Tom sighed. I know, I'm just saying. If Webb did survive and he wants to be someone else, there might be a reason. If you push this, you might not like what you find. I already do not like it. Fair enough. I will keep looking. Be careful. I spent the next week building a quiet routine. I tracked Emma's social media, noting when she posted photographs with Derek. I followed them once from a distance, watching where they went. Coffee shops, a movie, her apartment, nothing unusual. Derek drove a leased sedan, kept normal hours, and seemed careful in ways that suggested training. He checked his mirrors often. He walked on the side of the street that gave him a view of approaching cars. He scanned rooms when he entered them. These were not the habits of a consultant. These were the habits of someone who had been taught to watch for threats. I reached out to an old friend from a different time, a man who had worked in intelligence and now ran background checks for private firms. I gave him Derek Lane's information and paid cash for a deep search. The results came back clean but thin. Credit history went back only 7 years. Employment history before the consulting firm was scattered and vague. No criminal record, no military service listed, no red flags that would stop a standard check. But there was nothing that confirmed he was real either. He was a man made of recent paperwork and plausible details. The breakthrough came from Emma. She mentioned casually during a phone call that Derek had a storage unit across town where he kept old furniture and boxes from his travels. She had helped him move something there the previous weekend. I asked where it was, keeping my tone light, mentioning that I had been thinking about renting one myself. She gave me the name of the facility without hesitation. The next morning, I drove out and parked across the street. The place was large, gated, monitored by cameras. I could not access it without a code. I wrote down the name and left. I hired a different investigator, one who specialized in less conventional methods. I didn't tell him why I needed access to the unit, only that I needed photographs of the contents. He quoted a price. I paid it. 3 days later, he sent me a file of images. The unit was half empty. There were boxes labeled with generic markers, a few pieces of furniture, and in the back corner, a locked metal case. The investigator had not opened the case, but the photograph showed the lock clearly. It was military grade, the kind used for weapons or documents. Tom called again. "Carter changed his mind," he said. "He wants to talk to you. He found something." I flew to Wyoming the next day. Carter's shop was in a small town an hour from the nearest city, a low building with a gravel lot and bars on the windows. He was waiting for me inside, older and heavier, but still carrying himself like someone who could handle trouble. We didn't shake hands. He locked the door and led me to a back office. "I pulled favors," he said, sitting behind a desk covered in paperwork. "Talk to people who are not supposed to talk." Webb's death was classified beyond normal KIA protocols. The explosion was investigated by a unit that does not exist anymore. The report was sealed and everyone involved was reassigned. That does not happen for accidents. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying he was pulled, deliberately. Someone wanted him gone from the record." "Why?" Carter shrugged. Could be witness protection. Could be he flipped. Could be he knew something that needed to disappear with him. I do not know. But the fact that he is using a new name and tracking down people from the old life tells me he is not safe. And if he is with your daughter, neither is she. I felt the weight of that settle. What do I do? You get her away from him, quietly. Do not confront him. Do not let him know you know. People like us, if we are burned, we are dangerous. I flew home that night and sat in my office until morning. I needed proof that Emma would believe, something concrete that could not be dismissed as paranoia. The storage unit was the key. I contacted the investigator again and asked if he could get inside the metal case. He said it would take time and cost more. I told him to do it. A week passed. Emma continued seeing Derek. I kept my distance, playing the role of the supportive father, asking casual questions, gathering small details. Linda sensed something was wrong but did not press. I told her I was handling an old work issue. It was not entirely a lie. The investigator called late on a Thursday night. "You need to see this in person," he said. We met in a diner parking lot the next morning. He handed me a tablet with new photographs. The metal case had contained identification documents under multiple names, all with Derek's photograph. There was cash in multiple currencies. There were 3 burner phones, and there was a file folder, thin and unmarked. The photographs of the folder's contents were blurry but readable. Inside were printed surveillance photos of Emma, her apartment building, her office, her car. Some of the images were weeks old, some were recent. I stared at the screen until the investigator cleared his throat. "You want me to take this to the police?" he asked. "Not yet. This is stalking. Maybe worse." "I know, give me time." He hesitated, then nodded. "Your call, but be careful. Guys who keep files like that do not walk away easy." I went home and called Tom. I told him what I had found. He swore softly. "You need to move now. Get Emma somewhere safe and call the authorities." "If I do that, he runs. I need to know why first." "Jack, you are not in the field anymore. This is not something you handle alone." "I'm not handling it alone. I'm handling it smart." I hung up and sat in the silence. The surveillance photos meant Derek had been watching Emma before they met. The conference where they had supposedly crossed paths had been staged. The relationship was deliberate. He had targeted her. The question was why? Revenge for something I had done years ago? Leverage for something he needed now? Or something else, something I had not yet seen? I needed to speak to him directly, but not as a father. As someone from the old life, I needed him to reveal himself. I called Emma and invited them both to dinner again, saying that Linda wanted to cook for them. Emma accepted happily. I set the date for the following weekend, giving myself time to prepare. I reached out to Tom and Carter and explained what I planned to do. Neither liked it, but both agreed to be on standby. I documented everything I had found and left copies in 3 separate locations. If something happened to me, the truth would not disappear. The night of the dinner, Derek arrived early. Emma was running late, caught in traffic. I opened the door and stepped aside to let him in. He smiled and thanked me, moving into the foyer with the same easy confidence I had seen before. Linda was upstairs. We were alone. I closed the door and locked it. "We need to talk," I said. His expression didn't change. "About what?" I pulled up my sleeve and showed him the faded tattoo on my own wrist, 3 interlocked triangles. His eyes flicked to it, then back to my face. The smile faded. "Who are you?" he asked quietly. "You know who I am, Marcus." The name landed between us like a stone. He was still for a long moment, his face unreadable. Then he exhaled and nodded slowly. "How long have you known?" "Since the first handshake." He looked toward the door, calculating, then back at me. "I didn't expect you to recognize the ink." "You should have." "Fair enough." He moved to the living room and sat down, his posture relaxed but his eyes sharp. "What now?" "You tell me why you are with my daughter." "Because I like her." "Try again." He smiled, but it did not reach his eyes. "You think this is about you?" "I know it is." "You're half right. It started as recon. I needed to know if you were still solid, still keeping the old promises. Emma was a way in, but then I got to know her. She is kind. She is smart. She does not carry the weight we do. So I stayed." "You stayed because you are using her." "No, I stayed because I wanted something normal, just for a while." I studied his face. The lie was smooth, but lies are built on small truths. "Why did you disappear?" "Because I was told to. The unit burned. Someone sold us out. The explosion was a cover to get me out before the wrong people found me. I have been dead ever since. And now? Now I am tired. I wanted to check on the others, make sure no one else got buried. You targeted my daughter to check on me." "Yes. That is not checking. That is stalking." He tilted his head. "You have been digging into me. I saw your investigator. I saw you following me. Who is stalking who?" I kept my voice level. "You kept files on her, photographs, surveillance." He blinked. That caught him. "You got into my unit." "Yes." He was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then he stood. "I think we are done here. You are not leaving. You going to stop me?" "I'm going to tell her the truth." "She will not believe you. She will think you're paranoid, old man seeing ghosts." "Maybe, but she will see the photographs. She will see the fake identities. She will see what you are." His jaw tightened. "You do not know what I am. I know you are a threat to my daughter. That is enough." He stepped closer, his voice dropping. "You think you are protecting her, but if you push this, if you expose me, the people I have been hiding from will find her too. She becomes collateral. You want that? You are bluffing." "Am I?" He held my gaze. "Walk away, Jack. Let me finish this clean. I will leave. She will be safe. You push, and I cannot control what happens next." I heard the front door open. Emma's voice called out, bright and unaware. Marcus looked toward the hallway, then back at me. "Your choice," he said quietly. I stepped between him and the hallway. "She deserves the truth." He nodded slowly. "Then give it to her. But know what you're starting." Emma came into the room, smiling, apologizing for being late. She saw the tension immediately. Her smile faded. "Is everything okay?" I looked at her, then at Marcus. He waited, his expression calm. I made my choice. "Emma, I need you to sit down. There is something you need to know about Derek." What followed was long and difficult. I showed her the photographs. I showed her the evidence. I told her about the unit, the tattoo, the disappearance. She looked at Derek, waiting for him to deny it. He did not. He confirmed every detail, his voice steady, his explanations careful. He told her he had lied because he had no choice. He told her he cared for her, but that the relationship had been built on deception. He told her he was sorry. She asked him to leave. He did, without argument, without drama. At the door, he looked back at me. "You just made a mistake," he said quietly. "Maybe," I said. "But it is my mistake to make." After he left, Emma sat in silence for a long time. Linda came downstairs and held her. I stood by the window watching the street. 2 days later, Emma filed a police report. The authorities opened an investigation. Derek Lane vanished before they could question him. The storage unit was emptied, the consulting firm dissolved. He was gone as completely as if he had never existed. Tom called to say that Carter had received a visit from people asking about old unit members. I told him to stay alert. The threads we had tried to bury were surfacing again. Emma moved back home for a few weeks. She did not talk much at first, but slowly she began to process what had happened. She asked questions about the past, about the work I had done, about the kind of man Marcus Webb had been. I answered what I could without breaking the promises I had made. She forgave me for keeping secrets, and she forgave herself for not seeing the truth. Healing took time, but it came. Months passed. No one came looking, no threats materialized. Either Marcus had been bluffing or he had kept his word and left us alone. I didn't know which, and I didn't search for him. Some doors once closed are better left that way. The tattoo on my wrist faded a little more with each passing year, a reminder of a life that belonged to someone younger and less careful. I learned that protection sometimes means ending things before they begin. I learned that the past does not stay buried if you give it a reason to surface. And I learned that the hardest part of being a father is knowing when to step in and when to step back and living with the consequences either way. Emma is safe now. That is enough.